Very, very beautiful. Very beautiful. Wow. You're a wonderful, wonderful cellist to play the way you play it at your age, and with this kind of understanding of the music is really remarkable. I'm not surprised. Your teacher is Mark Churchill, who I've known for 55 years and was my cello student when he was a student at NEC. So I've known him all that. And he's a great musician and a great teacher, and he's taught you not only beautiful, I mean, you came this year actually, only in September. From where did you come?
Northern California.
Really? Yeah. Well, you made a good decision to come here. So I'm not surprised that everything has been taken care of in your preparation of this piece. So I don't have anything new to tell you, because he's already told you all that you need to know, and you've discovered what you need to know. But I do have a couple of questions. When you played that final section, what has happened since the beginning of the piece?
A lot.
Right. But how do you explain that? Is that a new discovery? Just play the opening of the Largo. And you know, the tempo that he gives is so slow that I think it's actually impossible to do his tempo. What he's saying is, play it slow, right? As slow as possible, right? So just do the opening of that. So what's happened? He's taking a tune, right? He's taking a tune from the beginning of the piece and chaining it so that you can't sing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, has that been there from the beginning, or is that something new?
The E flat.
The feeling of desperation, of being restricted, being held in, being chained, being pushed down by a society that will not allow you to sing. Mm-hmm. Right? Was that there at the beginning?
No.
Well, I'm not so sure. You see, I think that's permanent for Shostakovich. I think 1934, when he wrote this piece, he also read Lady Macbeth of Brzezinski Street and the Fourth Symphony, which he had to withdraw because you know that he was on a railway station with the cellist, and they were going to play this piece, and he opened the newspaper, and there in the paper it said, "Not music, just muddle." This was the famous review which apparently Stalin had written, saying the music of the opera was not music at all. And Shostakovich knew at that moment that he was doomed, right? That he would never be safe again, and that he would live in total fear. So much fear that when he sat at night, he had his overcoat on and a case packed. So if the secret police came to take him away to the Gulag, he wouldn't wake the children. Right. And that became a permanent state of mind for him. I think that even though he seems to be expressing some normal feelings of openness and love, and when he comes to the Largo and he plays the same theme so slowly that it can't actually be perceived, that was predicted right at the beginning. That's something to think about. You may not want to take it on. But the theme which you play in the cello is very much like Rachmaninoff. I mean, it's a romantic theme, isn't it? But listen to the accompaniment. Just play the accompaniment. he could so easily have had warm chords and rich sound like you, but it's very dry, isn't it? And against that, you almost like a nostalgia, a memory of a time when Russian art was free, spirited, and full of warmth and full of joy, but it's already being suppressed. Right? Stalin was rampant in 1934. Who was active in Berlin? Hitler, right? So this was a dark time in Europe, and already this fear and this terror was in his body, it was in his whole being, right? It's not just simple, here, listen to the cello, how beautiful it sounds. Should we try that? I may be wrong, but should we just try that? So, Victor, if you just play very dry, when that, it feels different. It feels as though, I've had that fear. And it's true to both styles. It's true to the romantic Russian style. I think it's actually a quotation from Rachmaninoff, from the cello sonata. And at the same time, it couldn't be more different, the accompaniment, so dry and so suppressed already. So that's something to think about. And crescendos, the fortissimo crescendo when it comes is overwhelmingly powerful. And when you come to the second theme, which in this edition is marked a tempo, but in the previous edition is marked with a slower tempo when he first wrote it. It's interesting that he changed his approach. Do you know about this? This is the original edition. And the first movement, this is 116, the tempo, moderato. And then he changes it for later, probably under the influence of Rostropovich, to 138, allegro non troppo. Now, I think his original concept is actually very interesting. There's a kind of a nervousness in a slightly slower tempo that might be true to his original idea. It's a question. We're faced with two editions. They say something completely. They're both from the composer. What do we do with that? And it might be right to say, well, this is the way he played it with Rostropovich, so we should do it that way. But sometimes you get into the mind of a composer when you see the original idea. Right. So would you just try the opening again, a little slower, and we'll just see how that works, because you're doing the traditional tempo which Rostropovich took. So 116, just, it's interesting. We don't have a battery here, so sound, always the thing. What a shame.
I have one.
Oh, you do? Great. 116, let's look. Just out of interest. The musicians have to pore over the scores and try and find, this is the original, this is the final official Buzynok-Sikorsky edition, and we have both. We learn from both. All right. What's the 116? Oh, wow. It's quite slow, isn't it? Should we try? Just try. This is maybe what he had in mind originally. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll tell you one little secret. Don't tell anybody. He was in love at this moment with the. Do you know about that? He
I
was
do,
yeah, he was in love with a young girl, a student, and he actually left his wife. Did you know that? In order to Now I have no idea whether that means anything, but this may be a secret love. Maybe. Right? Can you get love into your playing at this slow, held-in tempo? 1, 2. Good. It was beautiful. I don't know. I was very moved by that. Once again. Yeah, and you're completely exhausted. Right, rightly. You should always be exhausted. Right, always. Yeah, I mean, this music demands everything we have. That was great. Can we do the big do the second theme? Now, in the second theme, it's almost like he's found a place of solace. You know, with the F sharp accompaniment. Bar 52. You go from 52. You know, this tempo, it's very striking, isn't it? It's a different piece. It's much deeper, it's much more soulful, much more sorrow. So that when the slow tempo comes at the end, it makes sense because it's already has that in it, that quality of despair. Let's try 2 bars before you come in. Can I just say something to you about the nature of the cello? It's so present and so riveting an instrument, whereas the piano can be recessive, it can disappear. What you want to do there is make sure that every single pair of ears is listening to him. Therefore, play as softly as you can, which is why Shostakovich wrote pianissimo. All right. So take him literally. Okay. All right. And then by playing that soft, people say, what's going on? And then suddenly he comes in. All right. And then everybody will listen to them, because it's not natural for the piano to sing. It's natural for the cello to sing. Right. the pianist has to make a real effort all the time to be a singing instrument, because it's essentially a percussion instrument, except in the hands of great musicians who can make a piano sound like a violin or oboe, right? So do lead in. I was holding you in, but that's what I mean. You see, immediately the voice goes there once again. Still pianissimo. Now, I tell you something, everybody plays that theme that way, as if it was Italy. But he writes mezzo forte molto espressivo. So pour out your heart this time. All right? But it was very interesting. I'd like to ask each member of the audience whether they listen to the piano in a new way because of the way you were playing. I don't need to ask them because I actually know the answer. So we have to be very aware of how we guide the listener. And if you play too energetically in a place where you're not important, you take away the glory and the beauty that is surrounding you. Right. It's true in a marriage also, but that's another matter. Okay. You'll find out about that later. So, should we just do your introduction to where he comes? And when he comes, just tell us everything you know of love. And so on. Great, wonderful. That's fantastic. This slightly slower tempo gives us really a feeling that it's in 4/4, not in 2, and that I think is something else he told us, that it's in 4/4. These are all the things we as musicians have to wrestle with, pay attention, and nobody knows because we can't ask Shostakovich; he's no longer with us. No. And don't be fooled because you heard a recording and he played it differently, because the influence is on him as a performer, particularly Rostropovich, who's so strong. I remember a scene, we did the Du Tuyur concerto together with Rostropovich, and the composer was sitting in the front row, and he came, Du Tuyur, and he came up and he said, Maître, this is the composer talking to the soloist, Maître, he said, Master, the tempo is a little too slow. No, it's just right, said Rostropovich. So don't underestimate the influence that happens, and I'm not saying that he was right originally, and this I don't know. But as I said at the beginning, this is an exploration of interpretation questions. And I'm not saying I'm right about it, I'm just saying, how would it be if we tried? It's a good thing to do. Do the opening of the second movement. Terrific. Just I say a couple of things. This also has a different tempo. Right. Originally 152, and this is 176. When Britain plays it with Rostropovich, it's 200. Right. So it's become a very fast driven piece, and it's very exciting and very effective. On a radio broadcast, Elizabeth Wilson tells us in her book, Shostakovich was having a conversation with Benjamin Britten, who was my teacher, so I'm very interested in this. He referred to this movement as my little minuet.
Oh.
Wow, a minuet? Now, let's see what happens if we play it at his original tempo, just for fun. Can you get 152? Bum bim bum 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 ba ba beep ba 1 2 3 dum bum bim bum. Let's just try it, because he knew the 17th, 18th century minuet very well. He knew what it meant, and he marked it not allegro molto, but let me just be sure I got it right. Moderato con moto, right? Moderato. A different tempo completely from what he came up with. So if you try 1, 2, 3. No idea whether that was his original conception, but it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because that fits this idea. Whereas on the Britain recording with Shostakovich, it's so fast. It sounds just like rattling about. Right. And Shostakovich always was in terror. And of course, the third movement is one of the saddest, tragic movements in all of music, right? So maybe this piece isn't quite as simple as we sometimes think. Anyway, you're doing a fabulous job. One of the things I noticed about you is you can do anything, and you can change like that, and so can you. And part of our job as musicians is to be totally flexible and available. And if a new idea comes along, we give everything to it that we have, without resistance, without saying, but I heard somebody. No, you just say, let's try it. And you do that. And it's a sign of an important musician. So music is your life. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I mean, you may be flirting with something else, but forget about it. Yeah. Well done.